agenda meeting. We're going to begin with Finance and General Government Committee items with our Comptroller Ismet Alam.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. We have two items. Number one, a resolution making certain budgetary modifications. And number two, a resolution authorizing a contract renewal for the town's municipal accounting software Munis. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on those items? Okay, we're going to move on to Highway, Parks, and Recreation Committee items with our Superintendent, Ray Smith.
Resolution 3 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a John Deere backhoe off a NJPA contract with John Deere at Clifton Park. I submitted that contract with during my committee meeting. Number 4 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Freightliner. That's Mohawk Valley Freightliner. We're working to finalize that contract. That's an Onondaga County contract. Hope to have that was supposed to be later today or tomorrow. And I will put that together and give that to Elena. These are both items that were bonded in the 2021 budget.
Thanks, Ray.
Any questions? Thank you.
The last item on Highway, Parks, and Rec. Do you want to speak to this, Elena? The Besteros licensing agreement?
This is a license agreement that we do with all of our clubs. Besteros specifically is looking to use the Zenner soccer fields for 2 weeks, 1 week in July, 1 week in August, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. So we've worked out a licensing agreement with them, and it'll be a $1,200 license fee, standard terms and conditions of the license agreement. So that will be on for resolution later this month. Any questions?
Okay. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee items with our Town Planner, Laura Robertson.
So number 6 is a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application to the Niskuna Community Foundation. This is, they're just small grant rolling applications for the natural resource inventory, sort of like phase 1 seed money to get the overall GIS type of work done for the natural resource inventory, which would hopefully make it more competitive for a bigger grant to finish it up. Number 7 is a resolution calling for a public hearing for a telecommunication tower at 1 Research Circle. This is Verizon adding antennas to an existing water tower at the GE Research site, right on the GE Research Circle there. There's a representative from Young Summer, Laura Darling. If you guys had any questions initially about the cell tower going up there, it's being co-located. It's already pretty far off the road. The planning board held a public hearing, did not receive any comment, but if you have any questions, no, nothing. Okay, I'll send you the picture. She'll be here if you need her throughout the whole process. And then number 8 is a resolution calling for a public hearing for a special use permit for a mixed-use building at 2141 Eastern Parkway. This is a little tentative because the planning board hasn't had their public hearing, but they've called for one, and you guys wouldn't hold it until the end of July. So we'd like to keep it on there just because the process is timely for a special use permit. But that's a 3-story mixed-use building right across from like Temple Gates of Heaven on Eastern. And we've got some renderings and some site plans for that if you guys want to take a look at them. But it would be calling for a public hearing to be held in July. And then 9 is a resolution authorizing the sale of town-owned lands on Fillmore Ave. This is a tiny little piece. Paul Briggs has been working on it that can be incorporated into a land that's being subdivided. So we talked about it before.
Yes, it's an unbuildable piece. We were actually given the piece of land from the county because it was someone bought it for, I think, $1 or $10 at a foreclosure sale and just abandoned it. And the property owner's paying us $500 for that.
Yeah, and the abandonment cycle will continue. That's kind of what happens when property gets foreclosed that's unbuildable. It just keeps going. People buy it for $10 and they abandon it. Then they foreclose, then it comes back, and somebody else buys it for $10. So this will get it on the tax rolls and a buildable piece of land, and it'll be better.
I've been at those sales and people don't even know what they're buying.
Nope.
And the auctioneer will get down to $1 and the guy said, I'll take that.
Really?
Yeah, and they get a deed and they look at it and they just, well, I don't want that.
Yeah, then they come to my department and they're like, oh, and then they abandon
Right.
it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did anybody have any questions on those?
No. I
Thanks,
learned so
Laura.
much. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. We're now going to move on to Public Works Committee items with Superintendent Matt Yetto.
Number 10 is a resolution awarding a contract for the design of upgrades at the water treatment plant. We put out a request for proposals, had at least 3 engineering companies provide quotes. Josh and I reviewed all 3 proposals, and we are ready to make a recommendation.
What are the upgrades you're doing, Matt?
Controls, chemical feed improvements, modernization of electrical equipment that was installed in the 1960s. It's just overhaul of the entire aging infrastructure down there. 11 is a resolution awarding a contract for sewer lining. This is over in the Country Club neighborhood. We're able to utilize a contract that Onondaga County has with Errold Contracting out of Poughkeepsie. The estimated work is going to be around $180,000, and this was bonded with 2 separate bonds. 12 is a resolution approving the fall residential and commercial utility reconciliation. The numbers are checked and ready to go, just a formality of approving them. 13 is a resolution. It's actually up as much as 4 resolutions for acceptance of easement agreements for people to have fences or sheds in utility easements. Paul has a list of all of them. Do you want me to list them each?
No, I just need Josh to send me the backup information.
No problem. 14 is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign easement agreements. These would be temporary easements that would be necessary for that lining project that I discussed over in the Country Club area, potentially as many as 20 properties. Most of the access would just be foot traffic, but if the contractor is going to be working in the backyards, they would just need a way to get back there. '15 is a tentative resolution. If we are able to get candidates for the water and sewer maintenance position, we will interview them and provide names, but at this point, we're still having difficulty finding applicants. 16 is a resolution to appoint a wastewater treatment plant operator. I have 2 interviews scheduled, one for Friday and one for Monday, two potentially good applicants. So I'll be able to report back prior to the meeting. If we still don't get a good candidate, we'll just pull the resolution. 17, it's similar to the ones up above. We're still having difficulty finding people to work for us. It's a tentative resolution to hire a summer intern in the engineering office. 18 is a resolution to approve an agreement with Colony Landfill to allow us to use that as a backup place to dispose of our sludge from the wastewater treatment plant. 19, was that, where did that come from? That was on the agenda. I did not add that.
I don't know. Elena? Is Elena still here? 19 and 20? Laura, Elena, anyone? Bless you.
No, I have one.
Okay, so 19 is a resolution setting hourly wage rates for pool employees based on seniority. So we're just adjusting the hourly rates for those pool employees depending on how long that they've spent working with the town. And then 20 is another licensing agreement specifically with Starfish for use of the pool facilities. Any questions on either of those items?
I have to add two additional resolutions. One is a resolution to hire an attendant at the transfer station. We have ads out. We're looking for applicants right now. I just found out today that one of our two attendants is no longer interested in working for the town. He's retiring. It was expected, but not this quickly. And another resolution would be to call for public hearings for the district extensions for the Kelts Farms property. The engineering is in, it's being reviewed, and we can call for the public hearings for the drainage, water, and sewer district extensions. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Police and Public Safety Committee items with Deputy Chief Mike Stevens.
Okay, Resolution 21 is calling for a public hearing for the local law regarding off-road vehicles. Bill, correct if I'm wrong, this is the one about raising the impound fees, correct?
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
correct, Mike, yep.
Okay, just want to make sure I had it right. So public hearing for that. And the second, 22, is a resolution for hiring a police officer. This is not an immediate hire. We wouldn't be able to get one done in 2 weeks. It's kind of a two-part. A, the unexpected retirement that we learned of this last week, along with the police reform. They've talked about a community officer and such. So we're getting it on here now, but that action probably will not be done by the end of the month. So
You can't answer this maybe, but maybe how are we funding that position or those hirings or potential hire or hirings?
We don't, so let me go back to that. I think we have to wait for the Police Reform Task Force recommendation before we do anything.
No, they made a recommendation, as Mike said, about a community police officer. I'm just saying, how are we going to fund any lines in that? I'm happy to see it. Of course, I think we all are, but wondering how we're gonna fund it.
There was a retirement, there was a resignation, there was a couple of other things. Actually, they don't have a confidential secretary, so those are the savings that will be used towards that.
Those things have been, the retirements and Andrea, et cetera, has been for a while. So the recent one will have a payout too. I'm just wondering, how we're going to fund it.
So after the payout, there is funding left that can be used for that. And I've shared that number with the town board a few times.
That you've shared that number with the town board a few times.
So basically, so let me go back to that. Okay. It was, part of some of the presentations I did. So we will have adequate amount of money to fund police officer. And besides that, it's not, I would say that it would be, right now we are not looking at that. It's going to be the it was the recommendation from CNA and from the police task force that the town might need more police officers, right? And we know that some of the police officers are on disability. We did not know that. So we need to make sure that the police department is funded adequately.
Absolutely. Those aren't new things.
If that needs to be, again, if that's the recommendation and the desires of the town board and recommendations of the task force, then either it comes from the fund balance or the savings from the current savings from the police.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about, because my understanding was we didn't have the money. We didn't have the money to do that. So you're saying we may be using money from fund balance or from the
or from the savings from the people who have left. Yes.
Okay. We'll get more detail later. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
anything else from me?
No?
I think you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other additions or comments or questions? Okay, yeah. All right, I'm going to motion to adjourn. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned for the evening. Everybody have a wonderful night.
You too now. Thank you.